As of the 15th of April of 2025, Clerk of the United States Supreme Court, the General Counsel of the Federal Reserve Board, Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, all on notice, okay, of a universal declaration and assignment. And I'll read it to you. It seems that there are certain powers that want to hypnotize me into believing that I have failed to perform a duty. They're trying to Uno reverse card what they have failed to do. I have the record right here. Oh my goodness. Okay, so what I sent was a universal declaration of status, trust, and assignment, and a notice in the form of an affidavit of standing, trust ownership, and jurisdictional clarity, as well as a schedule of fees, literary minutes of meeting of a particular trust that I am a part of, okay, as well as an affidavit of baptism. So we are, not recognizing certain things and therefore failing to uphold our duty in order to try to cast some kind of shadowy spell, it seems, onto me. The only reason I can see that ever actually being necessary is because they don't want to assume the liability of trusteeship over the ens legis. Letter that I hand wrote every one of those people. This is private equity record of the trust that I mentioned, and I said in the matter of the estate of the ens legis, notice in the form of affidavit of standing, trust, ownership, and jurisdictional clarity in the living man known as who I am, being competent to testify, having firsthand knowledge and operating under full capacity as the equitable beneficiary of the foreign irrevocable trust known as the trust name in question. So do hereby deliver this notice in the form of an affidavit for the record and all lawful purposes. This notice is made for the purpose of affirming lawful status, trust authority, and rebuttal of presumptions that have been applied to the legal entity known commercially and corporately as the ens legis name I was given to administer, and or another way of spelling it, right? Hereafter referred to as all capitalized letters name. Okay, and so the first block here is the trust ownership of the name. The name does indeed, it has been held as a trust asset under the trust, recorded and administered under ecclesiastical and equity jurisdiction. All commercial use, application, or reference to the name is hereby lawfully acknowledged as trust-related only and shall not be construed as direct participation, representation, or liability of the affiant or noticer, the flesh and blood that's speaking to you. Standing of the living man, I, the name that the man is, do not now, nor have I ever, knowingly or voluntarily consented to the status of U.S. citizen, resident, taxpayer, or legal surety for any public debts. I am not a person, corporate entity, or legal fiction. I am the living man, made in the image of Yahuwah, standing in equity and governed exclusively by Yahuwah's laws and equity jurisprudence of the United States of America, established in 1776. For the avoidance of doubt, it is hereby declared that the noticer, affiant, shall henceforth be known and identified as the name identify as for all private, ecclesiastical, and trust-related purposes. The composite name, the ens legis form of it, remains a trust-designated commercial instrument and is no longer recognized as the lawful expression of the living man, okay? Trust structure and administration, the name is lawfully administered through the trust, as well as the estate, okay? Entities acting as subsidiary to the trust, all commercial dealings undertaken under necessity are conducted by these administrative entities and not by noticer affiant in the personal capacity. Here's the big part. What was overlooked is all commercial liabilities, obligations, or civil judgments previously issued against the name are hereby rebutted, rejected, and lawfully reassigned to the United States Department of the Treasury as principal debtor under constructive trust. This includes any and all state or federal cases, court proceedings, or administrative claims that have presumed the noticer affiant's consent as jurisdiction, okay? It is further declared and affirmed that such legal and commercial cases are customarily converted into book entry securities and registered in digital clearing systems for the purpose of securitization and monetization without full disclosure or consent of the noticer affiant. These instruments, often cataloged through CUSIP or related systems, continually constitute unjust enrichment by third parties and are hereby repudiated and reassigned to the Department of the Treasury for equitable discharge, reconciliation, and closure, and set off or offset. Lawful use of public name benefits to the extent that the name has received public benefits or assistance. Such acceptance was strictly under necessity and duress and shall not be construed as consent to jurisdiction, agency, or statutory liability. No waiver of rights has occurred. Okay, and then rebuttal of presumptions. All presumptions of citizenship, fiduciary capacity, agency, residency, or legal suretyship are hereby rebutted and shall be considered null and void. All future communications, demands, or claims must be addressed to the appropriate trust entity or its lawful agents. The name I go by with the flesh and blood here, do hereby affirm and attest that all facts and statements contained herein are true, correct, and complete to the best of my knowledge, belief, and firsthand experience, so help me, Yahuwah. Executed this day, the 15th of April, 2025. And there it is, the signature block, as well as the thumbprint. This was done for every one of these people. Every one of them. Once again, it was the United States Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, the Clerk of the United States Supreme Court Scott S. Harris, the Attorney General of the United States Pam Bondi, the General Counsel Federal Reserve Board Mark E. Vander Weide. All those people got that, and all of them ignored it. Hey, how you doing, Jeremy? Yeah, man. Any kind of presumption that I have failed to uphold my duty, well, I just gave the evidence that I have not, and in fact, it is you, the principal debtor, who has failed to uphold your duty as it pertains to my affairs. So thanks for letting me down. I would like to show what a affidavit of baptism is sometime, but for now, this concludes the assignment, the universal declaration and assignment of fiduciary obligations to all of the trustees, and they failed. My conscience is clean and I sleep like a baby. I don't know how any of those four people can. This is really more for me to show the people that follow me what I did, just kind of more keeping a record of things and showing that I did, do what I said I did. And thank you so much for your effort. And Jeremy, I'm going to read your exactly. Silence is acquiescence. And so thank you, Jeremy, for stopping in. Dude, yeah, it is amazing of how he's like, you might need some backup. You might forget some stuff. So here's Jeremy. Thank you, dude. You know what I mean? It's amazing how the world is. It's amazing how his grace is just so sufficient and so timely. Faith plus works. I did my works. And yes, I've got faith the size of a mustard seed. And then Jeremy shows up. He's like, hey, bud, you're going to need some of this here. You got that too. All right, so awesome. Hallelujah, right? So anyway, also in the complaint, your juridical person is the named party, but you are the party in action. That is not synonymous. Thank you for that addition as well. All day, every day, baby. All day, every day. So thank you very much, and praise be to the Most High, and may we have a government that responds in like kind. I have seen it happening from the White House. I've seen it happening from Donald Trump himself. We can have faith in what is happening and going on. I would love to see those fiduciary trustees really pull through. That's my main message here today. You can watch the replay. I'm taking off. Thank you so much. Jeremy, you know what it is, buddy. Thank you so much. Love you, man.